enjoying it.
Well, good morning.
Yeah.
Nothing special for this morning.
Morning.
Good. I got here early this morning, so I need some affirmation and everything because I'm scared being up here. But thank you for joining us for this discussion on DISA's large business prime contracts, how they select small business contractors, subcontractors. I'm J.C. Caesar with NetApp, and NetApp is honored to be a supporting partner of AFCEA's TechNet Cyber. On this panel, Ms. Carlin Capinos, the Director of DISA Small Business Programs, there you are right there, will moderate a panel on what prime contractors are looking for when selecting subcontractors. And a lot of you wouldn't be here if that weren't important to you. As the intelligent data infrastructure company, NetApp has extensive relationships with both large federal systems integrators and small businesses, and brings data infrastructure, security, and expertise to the table, helping to increase a team's P-win. Our moderator, Ms. Carlin Capinos, is responsible for $1.7 billion in contracts awarded to small business, which is nearly 28% of DISA's obligated priorities. Previously, she was chief of DITCO's Acquisition Resources Branch and was instrumental in the $7.5 billion SETI contract award. You've been pretty busy, huh? A little bit. Prior to that, she has served in contracting areas in the U.S. Air Force in locations from Lakenheath in the UK to Guam. Our panelists are Rebecca Haug from Vice President, Defense Technology Group, Booz Allen in Hamilton, Mr. Paul Hurst, Program Manager, Leidos, and Jason Myers, Vice President, Defense Agency's General Dynamics Information Technology. I'd like to give a hand to our panelists and our moderator. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our event. Our panel today, one of the questions that I get all the time is, how do I get a contract? And most of the time, the first discussion is about prime contracts with DISA. And as you heard, we do $1.5 to $1.8 billion in prime contracts awarded directly to small businesses. However, there's so many more dollars available at the subcontracting level. And so everyone asked me, well, how do I get a contract? A subcontract. And I'm like, well, why don't I invite some folks up to tell you how they do it? So today you're going to hear from Booz Allen Hamilton, Leidos, and GDIT, three of DISA's largest prime contractors that have many prime contracts with us, that have subcontracting requirements for it. And so I thought we could ask them the questions that you have on how you could potentially do subcontracts with them. So I'm going to start the questions off. I'm going to ask them some questions to provide you some information, and I'm going to ask some questions that I've been asked to ask them. And then we'll turn it over and let you guys ask specific questions that you have for them collectively or individually. Does that sound like a good plan for the next hour? All right, thanks for coming. All right, so let's start off with, in 2 sentences, what are you looking for in small businesses? When a small business stands out or impresses you, what do they do or what have they done? All right, we'll start with Rebecca.
Hello, everyone. 2 sentences. First, a trusted partnership, being honest about the capabilities that they can bring to bear and delivering against that promise. And secondly, collaboration, being a true partner and collaborating across the entire life cycle through the proposal and delivery execution.
So from a Leidos perspective, similar to Booz, our perspective is to mission capabilities. What capabilities do you have that will help our customer, DISA or mission partners, meet a need or an objective that they have? It always goes back to capabilities. It's really the primary thing that we're looking for. And then also, in addition to that, the second part of that is relationships, collaboration, with between ourselves and you or other partners. But it starts with the capabilities and what you bring to the table to solve the customer's issues, not Leidos issues.
Being third's tough, stealing all my answers. But no, I think the element of definitely differentiated mission value. The other piece I would say is ethics, right? Making sure that in addition to being a good partner, we're being ethical as far as how we go about business and how we're adding value to the customer's mission.
All right. So 2 more sentences that you're going to be authorized to speak on. And these 2 sentences are, what are you not looking for from small businesses?
Which way?
Okay, well,
So, not looking for a call saying, I'm really good at what we do, I can give somebody cheaper, better, faster. That's not what we're looking for. Again, I'm looking for capabilities. What do you know our customer? Do you know Leidos? Do you know the missions? Especially in GSMO, the contract I support primarily is GSMO, but other Leidos contracts. But what I don't look for is, hey, I'm a small business, you're a large business, can you get me some positions? That doesn't go well over with us.
Yeah, in a similar vein, I really don't want a cookie cutter blanket email of here's a generic statement of our capabilities. Come to our booth, shake some hands, let's make a relationship and understand each other, right? Where do we add value to each other? Where do we add value to the customer's mission? But talking in generalities and looking for us to bring you to the table, we should come to the table together.
And lastly, very similar to my colleagues over here, not being able to articulate how your capabilities align to DISA's missions and priorities. What is that value you're bringing? And secondly, not doing the homework and putting in the work to be a partner with Booz Allen and with DISA to deliver against their capabilities.
okay. So let's take one step backwards, and each of you tell the audience what your job is. Not necessarily your title, but like what you do in relation to what this panel is. And then also tell them what prime contracts you have with DISA so they know, oh yeah, that's something we're looking for, so they know if you are someone they should talk to later.
Sure. So I run our defense agency's business. So from the DISA perspective, we're within Enterprise ICAM, ETM, which is essentially the JSP running the mission network elements, and we're also in the DO's contract. And we are actively looking for subcontractors to help fulfill the customer's mission. ETM is one where we have leveraged subcontractors extensively to make sure that we're meeting customer requirements, expediency of running the Pentagon network is a high pace environment. And so making sure that we can make sure the system's running, we have the people that can fill gaps and address those needs.
Good night. Or do you want me to? Doesn't matter.
So basically, I'm the subcontract program manager on the GSMO contract. It's a very large contract. In parallel to us, within our division, is also the DES contract, which is another large DISA contract that we have in Leidos. And they both tier up into the same executive VP. You'll see that they're both, they're very similar. They're both sole source IDIQs with long runways and large ceilings, so they're very large contracts. We've been around since 2012. DES came on board, I think, like 2-3 years ago. So it's a different maturity level in terms of where we stand in performance. Now, my specific role is as a subcontract program manager, I basically am responsible for all subcontract behavior and on subcontract team on the contract, right? So everything from the first step, which is identify, then you vet the subs, you find out what value they're bringing to the table, the T's and C's, rate negotiations, onboard, any performance issues. So we do that. So that's under my purview as a subcontract program manager. I have a team that does that, and then. But more specifically for me personally, as the team's doing that, my role is to step back and look at the strategic relationship between all the subs we have. We have a very, very large roster. And therefore, My role is to make sure that when we bring a sub in, there's where they fit in the whole big picture. So when I talk to my boss, the VP PM, he said, okay, I understand why we're bringing the partner on. Here's the capability they're bringing on, and here's why we're adding another partner, because we do have a large roster of subs. So that's my responsibility.
And Leidos also has SETI and Encore contracts
Yes,
too.
correct. Thank you for that. Yes.
Yep. So my role within our Defense Technology Group, I'm the account executive overseeing our OSD and defense agencies portfolio. And one of my primary responsibilities in that role is setting our corporate strategy in terms of how we align our capabilities, investments, and resources against our clients' emerging needs. And so specifically for DISA, we're always looking at, where are we currently delivering and what do we need to invest in to prepare for kind of what's next in alignment to their broader strategy. I've been fortunate to have a role supporting DISA since 2002, and I can confidently say small business partnerships has been a part of our success story since my entry into DISA in 2002. Similar to my colleagues, we are a prime contract holder on SETI and Encore 3, two of DISA's premier contract vehicles. We have a number of other IDIQs and BPAs that support specific missions and technical capabilities across the directorates. Some of you are probably familiar with Thunderdome. That one gets a lot of press recently, as well as a number of other contracts that we hold.
Okay, so how are you guys doing overall or specifically with meeting your small business goals across the board or specifically with DISA? I'll let you answer that however you want to frame it.
I can go. Let me go first. Okay, I'll go first. This small business participation is something we highly prioritize. Against our requirements with DISA specifically, we are on target to either meet or exceed all of our goals across all the different categories. Now, that said, there's always opportunities to do better and to engage more partners across the different categories. If I had to pick a couple that we would definitely welcome additional conversations specifically around small disadvantaged as well as HubZone. Those tend to be a smaller pool of qualified resources that have those niche capabilities that we can bring to bear across the different assignments. And so those are definitely areas where we do have strong partnerships today, but we always welcome additional as we continue to explore new roles.
Overall, similar to Rebecca's, we have, from a numbers perspective, we far exceed at the top level, both against the TAV and the percent of subcontract numbers against our goals from the 2019 proposal. We far exceed both numbers, and we do very well across all the categories. Similar, there's one area that if we had to say which is the toughest one, that's always on the border, is SDB. That for us is always a challenge, and that's one example where we do try to expand the pool, because even, if I can say this, Carlin, but even if you're an SDB, just because you're an SDB, you're not going to get to work, right? But what we do is give you an opportunity by expanding the pool, and if you have the capabilities, certainly that helps. So that's probably our biggest area, is the SDB area, that we could use some additional help. So if you're an SDB, reach out to me.
Yeah, and I know obviously from an existing perspective, but I'm sure a lot of people here are interested in prospective work. As we look at the contracts and the bids that we're going after, small business is a critical component. We want to far outpace what the minimum requirements are. We value the differentiation. We understand a diverse perspective and opinion only makes our team stronger, and it only makes the government's mission stronger. So for us, I would say when we're looking forward, we're far exceeding what the minimum requirements are, as well as obviously executing beyond what those are.
Okay, so those of you in the audience, is anybody in here interested in working as a subcontractor to any of the three contractors? Okay, and so your first question might be, how do I engage with them? Like, do you want me to send an email? Do you want me to go to a portal, a website? What's step number one for each of these? So how should they approach you to get the ball rolling to potentially end up being a subcontractor?
So if you go into the Leidos website, Leidos is a very strong small business office that supports at the corporate level. And Leidos, like big companies, right, we have a lot of civil work and DoD work. So that office supports across the corporation. And they have access points there. I think they have submit questions, emails, that type of thing. So that's one aspect. And from what I understand, they're somewhat responsive. They'll read your email. They'll figure out what business area it belongs, DOD or civilian or wherever, and then they'll pursue it that way. And they'll pass it on to the program manager or somebody like myself on the program. The other more direct way is if you really feel that, especially if you have DISA experience today, or you know the mission partners, that we support on DISA, then you call me, because there's a little more relationships there, right? In terms of, hey, I'm nice looking for work. That's probably better to go to the corporate world because they have a much broader view of Leidos than I do, because I'm focused more on the program. But if you have something, hey, I think this is really a DISA thing I can help with, or this is my customer, or you work with Leidos on another DOD contract, then you come out to me. I'm pretty straightforward. I'm paul.hurst@leidos.com. That's my email.
And I think from our perspective on GDIT, we have a three-pronged approach. So first, absolutely come into our website and register from the website. We also have all of our vehicles listed, as well as emails associated with each of those vehicles. So if there's a specific vehicle and a capability you want to bring, definitely reach out to those individuals. That allows you to have a much more targeted conversation. And then absolutely come talk to our booth. We have a significant number of our team running our DISA business there today. So come build those conversations. We want to meet you. We want to understand, your story, right? And how we can best help.
Similar to Leidos and GDIT, there is a place on our Booz Allen website where you can go register. That registers you in our small business office portfolio database. That's getting your foot in the door. So as PMs and capture leads have needs where they want to see maybe where there's qualified companies with specific capabilities or socioeconomical categories, but that's not going to get you that near-term match. That's a common bit of feedback. I registered, haven't heard anything. Something hasn't come up that, where there's a match. There's hundreds of companies that sit in that database. If you have a specific requirement, specifically for DISA, we do have, for the two premier contracts we mentioned earlier, Encore 3 and SETI, we have PMO distros that you can reach out to share where you think you might play a role in an upcoming acquisition, a requirement, or where your skills generally align to the scope of those specific contracts. I will say, as was kind of discussed before, kind of do your homework in advance and make sure you're clearly articulating where that matches and where you see potential need, because there is a lot of volume that comes with requests, and being able to kind of stand out is very helpful in ensuring you get a call back and we can have some collaborative conversations and where there might be a match.
Okay. All right. So when you include a small business in your proposals, especially on IDIQs, our solicitations generally require a participation plan. You need to come in and say who is part of your team, what parts of work they're going to get. So when a small business is included in your proposal and you win the contract, what does that look like for the small businesses in the proposal that were named?
So I think there's a couple elements there. So first and foremost, if we're including you in our team, we want you to be part of the team. So for us, it's critical that you're part of that implementation and execution. This is not something where we want to bait and switch the customer. It's not something we want to bait and switch you, right? Again, a partnership is multi-directional. And so we have to be good partners to you. Now, the other piece I would say to that, though, is making sure that as you're trying to be aggressive in winning work, being realistic in your ability to staff the work is another piece that's always important. Not just from hey, do we have existing staff, but also in the rates, right? I think there's some elements where everybody wants to get the foot in the door. We're going to be super competitive on cost, and then, oh no, we can't actually hire anybody that wants to work at that rate. That's not good for you. It's not good for us. So I think one of the things we try to do is also work with our partners and work with our small business teammates, right, to say, hey, is this really realistic, right? Let's back this up and make sure that you can be successful as we move into that execution stage.
Along the same lines as Jason was saying, if we go to the effort to put you in a proposal, it's because we want you. That's the reality. We're not going to spend it. We're not going to spin our wheels trying to get you on the proposal. Some RFPs require, teaming agreements. Some don't, depending on and then if we go to the effort to put a teaming agreement in with you because, we think it's the right thing, we're going to work with you. Now, the reality of many situations, and I get calls, say, hey, I was on your team, why didn't you call me? The reality oftentimes is we might get an RFP, submit a proposal today. Today is May of 2025. We may not start work till May of 2027 at some of the acquisitions. And the landscape changes, right? And that's where we need to be open in a relationship with you. Hey, we couldn't connect you day one because something changed, but you're still on the team, you're still at the table, you're still part of the conversations. Let's see how we can integrate you going forward. So it's not always a day one solution. It could be a day 100, it could be a 6-month solution, but it's up to us, and we try really hard at this to explain why you're not day one solution. Because things change between a submittal today and performance 2 years from now. So that's a thing I've seen over time.
I would also add in there too, with an IDIQ, you don't know, you have to prepare your proposals to meet all the requirements where the task orders that you're anticipating, you may still have to compete on those, or they may not be what we all thought they were going to be.
Yeah. On a similar note, my thought around it is very teaming agreement centered. We should have a fully executed teaming agreement that describes what that relationship's going to look like between the two companies through the proposal process and in execution. So we would have defined where we see you playing a role with that specific requirement. Is it specific capabilities that you're bringing? Is it specific task areas that you're going to be responsible for delivering against? Are there a certain number of bodies that we plan to execute with that company? And to Carlin's point, even for task orders, when we have specific requirements, oftentimes our TAs are set up in advance of the final solicitation, so we're making a bunch of assumptions based off of what we're hearing in early industry days, previous work. And sometimes that changes, which requires us to adjust what our strategy is for engagement. And so that level of flexibility and open communication and saying, look, we brought you in for this skill set. That is not a prominent requirement here. We still want to engage you. This is probably what it's going to look like, making sure we have those conversations. And in execution, sometimes there's optional tasks on contracts or surge cleanse. There might not be a day one opportunity, as Paul has mentioned, but that shouldn't be a surprise. That should be something we're talking about throughout the process. And if it's not a day one solution, setting up a mechanism for communication so that we can touch base and understand as things evolve, when is that opportunity to bring you in?
Okay, so I heard 2 of the 3, and I bet if I asked the third, they would say that when you're in a proposal, there's some sort of written agreement, a teaming agreement of some sort that describes it. And as somebody who evaluates those elements of it, I can tell you that I do see those. One of the issues that comes to my attention from small businesses is, hey, I was in that proposal. I helped put together these numbers or this part of it, but now they're telling me I'm not on their team. And so then I always ask too, do you have a teaming agreement with that? And okay, 100% of the time the answer is, well, no. So what I hear is that if you're working with one of these companies or any other large businesses to be part of the proposal, make sure you have that written agreement. I've seen a lot of times where small businesses are afraid to ask for those things for these companies because they're like, they're afraid they're going to get pushed out. But then the story is hard to put the pieces together if you don't have that, because somebody isn't telling. The stories are different depending upon the perspective that you're hearing it from. But always cover yourself to have that agreement. My team is going to put together these numbers in this part of the proposal, and we have an agreement that should you win, we're going to get these task areas or what have you. So I don't know if you guys hear that, but I do hear that. Companies, small businesses that believe they were part of your team that for one reason or another are not actually in the proposal.
Yeah, we early on in my career, been a while, but I think we're seeing a change in the way it is. Typically, what happens if we come to you and say, give us some rates. Here's the LCATs, give us some rates. You give us some rates. And that's the intent of our exchange. It doesn't mean, one, that we used to rate. Remember, we're bidding a proposal. All of us here are bidding ultra competitive proposals. We have a price to win team that's telling us, here's the number you need to hit. And we're juggling Lidos, we're juggling you guys, we're juggling large companies. We try and make the number to get to the winning number. Because we get a rate from you does not put you on the team. It gets you in the conversation. Now, what I've seen change over the last 10 years has been the force in the RFPs. Carmen's probably been behind some of these. And the RFPs saying you need a teaming agreement if you're going to use somebody in just proposal, large or small business. That has forced us, at least the ones I've been involved in, to go get the teaming agreement from a small. Before it was in that focus, not so much. It's proof to us that you have a relationship, get a teaming agreement. So that mechanism I've seen change in RFPs probably in the last decade. Before that is I got 100 rates from 100 proposals, 100 smalls and larges. How are we going to mix and match to get to a winning number? And then I get a call, hey, I'm on your team. Well, you gave me some rates, but I wasn't put you on the team, right? So we get similar calls.
And for us, if you don't have a teaming agreement, you're not part of our team. Rip my inbox, unfortunately, from all the approvals. But I mean, even if there's a single individual delivering, you're going to have a teaming agreement from us. So we are very formal about that. We expect that, and again, it's mutually beneficial to make sure that we're being held accountable, but also that you go in with a very clear expectation of what's going to be expected of you in delivery. So absolutely, teaming agreements is critical.
The only thing I'll say on top of all of this is it is our intention to set up partnerships. They're set up for specific opportunities, but the goal is to build that relationship so that we can partner on multiple engagements. So it's never our intention to misrepresent how we plan to engage any specific partner. And so make sure that if you have an expectation, just make sure it's mutual and it's understood. Even if it's not in paper form, there's conversations that we should be having so that there's no disappointment in execution. So I mentioned being trustworthy and conveying what you can deliver. That goes on both sides. And so just open communications is critical.
Okay, so I have one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience question. What do you need from small businesses to be able to subcontract? Are you looking for experience, employees with clearances, access to contracts? And do you have any secret sauce that you can tell us about for companies that can be successful as subcontractors to you?
So from our perspective, our defense group is over 50% veteran. So for us, having that perspective, having that mission passion is absolutely critical. The other piece I would say is, it's super easy and not like anything's going on in the world right now where we're being villainized. But I would say that we really do invest, right? We're investing in our people and we're investing in the technologies. We're putting our dollars to work to make sure that we can accelerate things to the government. And I think that's the same thing from what we're looking for from our partners is, are you investing in your people? Are your people happy, right? Are they going to be successful and part of our team long term? Are they going to be part of your business long term? As well as, again, where are you investing in your technology and your capabilities so that we can make an even greater impact to our customers?
So what gets my attention, right, when I talk probably every week. I talk to small business. Part of my job to talk to small businesses on a regular basis, to new potential small businesses, and one of my focus has always been is I'm looking for somebody that when I speak to them, they know the customer, DISA, or mission partner, Army, Air Force, could be somebody else that knows a little bit about Lidos, stuff they can Google pretty quickly. Now you have to be an expert. And understand a little bit about the contract, and tell me what value you bring to solving the customer's problems. That's really what I'm looking for. That is, if you can provide value and capabilities, that'll come through in your conversation with us, right? It will say, hey, here's what I bring to the table. I know I work here, I work there. Here's the experience that I have, and here's where I can make a difference to Lidos and to the. We all work for the customer, right? There's one customer right there. We all work for the customer.
No, that's the customer up there that you're working with.
That one, over there. So we work for the customer, right? So therefore, we're not solving customer problem. They're not going Lidos, and they want Lidos, and therefore they're not want you either, right? So it's important that every conversation I have is, tell me what you know about Lidos. Tell me what you know about DISA. Please don't. True story. I don't think that. Well, I was on a Zoom call with somebody, And I met with them, and the first 30 seconds was, you could tell they're Googling GSMO, and you could tell they were, and they say, yeah, how's your customer DISA? Well, as soon as you say DISA to me, instead of DISA, you kind of lose me a little bit, right? That means you haven't tried very hard to prepare, right? And that comes through.
Yep, and just rounding that out, I think there's multiple perspectives here. Generally speaking, are there specific capabilities and technologies that you have that could amplify a Booz Allen team? Both our in-house capabilities and as well as potentially of those of other teammates that we brought for a specific opportunity. You all are aware, current administration is focused on maximizing lethality and bringing accelerated speed and scale to the software-defined solutions that we offer to the warfighter. And so we do that by engaging the best of industry, right, and partnering together to make those integrated solutions for the customers. So where we can find those opportunities to pull together capabilities that are complementary, that's what we want in terms of being able to position for new work.
Okay. Does anybody out there have a question? We have a microphone. Yep.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about capabilities. So from a small business perspective, what would you guys consider maybe more specifically some of the top 3 or 5 capabilities that a small business can bring to you guys as the integrator?
Good question.
You said top 3 things? All right. Key insights to a specific mission or key relationships, that's always key, especially when we're exploring new space. And I think, when you look at some of the new technologies that are out there, is there a niche capability that you all have been investing in? Because there's so many technologies out there. So very AI-related, that's a big focus area. Cyber-related capabilities, those are probably the focus areas that we'd be looking at.
I would also add, can you tell what are the top 1 or 2 contracts at DISA that you're pursuing now? So they know. I mean, I know you're probably competing against each other, but I don't care about that. So.
Let's see. Top contracts. Well, there's an active one on SETI right now that I'm sure at least 2 of us are bidding on. CISO ITSS is one of the big ones. Most things that come out on SETI we do pursue because it's very much in alignment with our capabilities around innovation and highly technical advanced solutions. And on Core 3, I don't know that we have any specific ones there. We are very active in the OTA space. There was a recent CSO that DISA released. That is another one that has been something we've been actively pursuing, but that one is a little bit later in the game.
I'll answer the capabilities question first, and then I'll go back to that. So capabilities, our contract is 99% personnel, right? So on GSMO, we have people worldwide 24/7 working on the government network, on government locations and SCIFs. So technology, when I get a call about technology, that's not as helpful to us on GSMO. We're not really technology driven. DISA decides the technology path, and then we react by monitoring the network. So to us, what we value more, at least in this contract, and the other one it does is, okay, do you have clear people that are qualified, everything from network controllers to IA to watch officers. It's a full breadth of capabilities. And one of the biggest issues we have is when we get resumes, is make sure your resume is fully vetted. Right? When you send us a resume, say this guy can do this job, make sure it's fully vetted. Because what we don't want is the PMs to spend time vetting that, and now all of a sudden realize the person doesn't have the right clearance, can't work from there, lives in a different country, different state, whatever, right? So capabilities to us is more people capabilities more than product based on this contract. And in terms of the other contracts that we're chasing, and let me make one comment here. Top secret clearance, okay? On our contract, and I'm not sure about this abroad, but at least in the contracts I've worked, top secret clearance is a requirement. TS, facility clearance is a requirement. 99% of our staff is cleared, and they work in SCIFs. So that's a basic. Now, if you don't have a top secret clearance today, are you dead on the water? No, because your homework assignment out of this is, how do I get sponsored? How do I get sponsored for a top secret clearance? And there's a lot of ramifications that comes with that, including you have to have a business case to convince a customer to sponsor your clearance through a Leidos, for example, or probably through other companies. But that's something you want to be aware of is, Unless you have the clearance, that can give you a subcontract, right?
And I also want to point out, though, too, you're talking personal clearances versus the corporate clearance.
Yeah, corporate level.
Okay, because you can.
The company level, we need to have, the DD-254 has to be approved by DISA Security at the company level.
Okay, but you can bring in contractors that they might only have a secret, but their personnel have a top secret, and you
Yes.
can bring them on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's kind of like an important thing. In terms of competition, competitive natures, I'm not completely familiar with the whole Leidos world in terms of what contracts you're pursuing, but I am familiar on the one that's a CISO, that one that's a task order recompete that's going on right now, that we're both competing on, but on different teams. So
Friendly competition.
yes, it's a friendly competition. But yeah, that's the main one we're competing, which is a good sized opportunity.
And then for us, as somebody who's built a product, I understand that sometimes when you have the hammer, everything looks like the nail. But when we look at technology injection, the first thing I ask my team is actually decomposing the customer's use cases, the mission needs, and how does technology actually solve a problem. And so I think when we're talking about, your capabilities, honestly, I'm less worried about the buzzwords, right? Because frankly, everything's an AI-driven something at this point, or ZT to the edge, So for us, it's, again, what is your capability and ability to actually solve the problem? Recognizing the problem in the first place, and then how are you going to solve the problem? From that, right, then we can have some real conversations of how do we work together to provide a comprehensive capability that's going to go do that and be successful, especially in maturity. I've had a lot of conversations. I know I'm talking to probably a lot of salespeople. I would also say bring your technologist to the table. I will absolutely ask really hard technical questions, and I really want an answer because we're about getting speed and capabilities to the customers as fast as possible. So if we're just having these pithy conversations, it's not really beneficial to our customers. So I would say, as you bring those technologies, bring your smart people to the table. Let's go and deep dive and solve the problems together. As far as opportunities, I'll say, ETM is one, again, that, we are pursuing as a team with capabilities, as well as model is another one that is an interesting, CTA construct that we have interest in.
Sorry.
Hi, thanks. Specifically, I'm going to ask Leidos a question. You guys were great in doing a small business open house back in January. You invited me to attend representing my company, and that was great. I met a lot of good contacts at Leidos, but I've not been able to generate any momentum since then. So what should be my next step? I feel like I got in the door and I'm trying to make our case and show where we have capability and have fixed problems elsewhere, but it's kind of stalled. So what should I be doing?
Yeah, that was an open house. I think the first one that we've ever had run by headquarters, right? That's an example of run by the whole corporation. And I was there. I'm not sure you remember, but I was there. I didn't speak at that one, but I was there. So that could be an example where I assume you followed the process, you went to the website, you sent the message, nothing happened, or very little happened. Nothing. Well, in that case, just reach out to me, paul.hurst.com, and paul.hurst@leidos.com, and I'll see what I can find out.
Hi, I'm Jenny from Jazz, and I just wanted to ask a question. You guys say know your capabilities, know your clients. But do you guys ever do JV and mentor proteges to help the small businesses gain access to your clients to better support your mission?
Yes, specifically for Booz Allen, we are a very heavy participant in the Small Business Association Mentor Protege program. We have it's either 4 or 5. I don't remember the exact count. We had multiple existing mentor protege JVs that we currently sustain to deliver across the federal government. We actually have one that is specific to DISA that has a prime contract on the Encore 3 and SETI vehicles as well. So that is definitely something that we embrace and that we have been participating in. Is that? It is. I am one of the board of managers for that joint venture, correct? Yep.
Leidos has similar, right? We're supporters. I have not seen the list recently. I know when we started GSMO2, we had 2 mental proteges. I think if I remember, there's like a time limit type of thing. But I'm not aware that we have one for DISA right now, but I can certainly find out if it is. But yeah, we're big supporters of the program. And last I thought we had 7 or 8 so across the corporation, but I'll have to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and from our perspective, we're always looking for small businesses to mentor, partner, team with. On the JV side, candidly, we haven't been that involved just because to us, small businesses mean small businesses. So we actually want small businesses owning the work versus us posing like a small business. So we haven't actually been that involved in that aspect of it.
Hi, I have a multi-part question. We have a skill bridge program, and the requirement to get into the program is TSSCI clearance for guys like you. But we don't have the facility clearance. So if we brought these highly cleared, recently separated service members, can we get sponsored for the FCM?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. We have and continue to sponsor facility clearances for partners. Oftentimes we need a mission partner on an existing contract that's willing to do that. And so we've done that on a number of DISA contracts where there's a very specific need, right? There's a specific capability that company's going to bring, and we have that process in working with DISA Security to sponsor the FCL. There's always more demand than there is need, and so it's really finding that match, right? Where are those skill sets that you're building, and how can we apply that to a current or future requirement?
What type of lead time do you have on those requirements? Because the skill bridge program could be
How long does it take to get an FCL? Is that what you're asking?
No.
Okay, yeah.
What type of a lead do you have on the specific technical requirements you require of these cleared people? In other words, our skill bridge program could be anywhere from 2 to 6 months.
I see.
So
Yep.
do you look out that far where we can say, hey, we got these guys in
Oh,
the program?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, but it's I think that program seems a little bit unique in terms of how we might engage. And so finding those opportunities where that time window makes sense, because it does take time to get an FCL to sponsor
Sure.
that, and making sure that aligns so the investment that's happening both from the government side as well as both of the companies makes sense. Yeah.
Secondly, is being CMMC Level 2 certified ahead of time a positive thing, or do you require that as a prime?
I would say from a where we sit today, it's not something that we that's a requirement, right? CMMI, the TSFCL is clearly a big deal, but in terms of that type of thing, it's nice to have. But for us to give you a subcontract, I don't have to check that box.
Did you say CMMC or CMMCI? C.
Oh, CMMC.
No.
So anybody who is level 2, I would say it's a bonus because you're all going to have to get there and you're already there.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead.
This question is actually for Carlin. Now, you mentioned about small businesses having TAs and agreements in place, right? And sometimes they come to you. If those particular agreements are in place, does DISA do anything to help the small business when those issues arise?
Yes. If you come to me and say, "Hey, one of these people up here, I think they screwed me over," I'm going to go, "Really? They would not do that. You heard them. They said they have ethics." But we're going to ask, what is the issue? What do you think the issue is? And then depending upon what it is, we'll see what we can work it out. I can ask any question that I want to anybody that I want, but I can't make decisions or make anybody do anything. But if there is something that's egregious about it, then I usually just go to the KO and say, "Hey, this is what I heard. This is what I said." The biggest problem that I have on a lot of it, people will come and tell me what happened from their perspective. And then I'm like, "Okay, well, do you have the receipts so I can take them and go do something?" And they're like, "Nope, nope." Or I do, but I'm not going to share them with them because I don't want to make these guys mad because then I'll never get another subcontract. To which I'm like saying, if they've screwed you over, why do you want to work with them? But that's just me. But what I would say is that if there is something, then yes, we will intervene to ask the questions. Most of the time I'm going through a KO if there's a real issue there. Like I said earlier, a lot of times they'll tell me, well, I was in their proposal, and I'll say, do you have a teaming agreement? And they're like, no. I'm like, were you in it? And I can generally see the proposal, so I can go, yeah, you're not in it. Which I can't even tell you that because I can't tell you that. But if I do see that you're in there and that you're telling us whatever it is, I'll work through the KO with it. And we will do what we can, but there's a lot of privity of contracts where we just can't give you the information even if we know it or have it. But again, that's when you work with these folks and to say, hey, I thought we had an agreement here, and they can go back and go, oops, we did, but in Amendment 37 of the solicitation, it got pulled out, or something, weird can happen. And hopefully they'll say, maybe this one didn't work out, but maybe we have another opportunity. So that was a long government answer to, it depends.
Oh.
All right.
Hello, panel.
Hello.
I wanted to ask, aside from the more premier contract vehicles like Encore and SETI, moving forward, what contract vehicles do you guys, foresee coming down the pipeline where you may want to potentially partner with a small business on?
I would say that DISA, and not sucking up to the teacher here, but DISA does an amazing job of publishing those opportunities on the website, the small business website. So I think out of any organization that I've seen within the government, it is a wealth of information for small businesses. So you can find those opportunities, find where that best fits with your organization. That doesn't just because it is an extensive list, so it doesn't mean we're pursuing all of them, but that would give you a really good opportunity to say, hey, this is where we may want to partner.
You mentioned specifically vehicles. I think there's a lot of unknowns right now in terms of how specific technologies or capabilities are going to be acquired across the DoD. So I think in many ways we're kind of waiting it out and seeing. But just in the two examples you mentioned, we know that SETI and Encore 3 here, not too far in the distant future, we're going to be looking at what is the follow-on for those. And so there's definitely opportunities to engage early and work with us as we kind of see what happens around acquisition strategies and how we can position for key vehicles for us to pursue the work.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so I'm going to give each of these folks an opportunity to have kind of a closing statement, closing argument, pitch, whatever they want to say to you, and they can have 4 sentences on this one. So, all right.
Sentences. Do you want to go first? Okay.
And you've probably heard it a couple times from all of us. In any subcontracting, right, relationships matter, and especially from a small business perspective, it probably matters even more, right? So it's important that you have the communications open. It's important that we collectively, sometimes things don't work out. So you have to look long term, right? Yeah, maybe this one didn't work out, but maybe the next one will. And understand the dynamics at play. I would say on our contract, it is so large, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of contractors, and many of them, more than half of our subs are small businesses, right? So we're fully committed to the small business partner, but oftentimes, if you don't have that relationship, it's hard to engage, right? So understand, sometimes the answer is going to be not right now, it doesn't work out, but let's keep talking. That's okay. Let's keep talking. It's not always going to work out the first time. And that's once you establish a relationship. Oh, a new opportunity came in. Maybe you guys are the right guy for the opportunity. Let's see if we can pull you into that team. It matters. Relationships to me and all of this industry matters, but specifically in the interaction between a prime and a small business.
Yeah, I mean, for as big as this environment is, it's also super small, right? I mean, Rebecca and I have worked together for over 18 years, right? So, things come full circle. We understand all of these elements, and so making sure that we do have that collaborative bond and relationship, and how do we not just bid, but how do we execute together? How do we be successful in making sure that we're making a change and an impact. And then I would just say, like, again, coming in with an honest answer. I think that's another piece. You don't need to oversell us. You can have weaknesses. We have weaknesses, right? Like, so as long as we're just being transparent and say, hey, I've got this really good thing. Maybe I don't have the customer relationship here to really understand how to best leverage it. Or I do have the customer relationship, but I really need your technology to go solve this problem, right? So as long as we're honest with each other, it allows us to be honest with the government and put together a comprehensive solution.
Yeah, so I'll end with 3 themes that very consistently shared throughout this panel: trust, collaboration, and flexibility. We want that trusted partnership both ways, right? When we're committing to something for you, we need to honor that commitment when we have the ability to do so, and that goes with the flexibility, right? Sometimes things change, and with that, we need to work with you to figure out how to adjust and refocus. And that collaboration through the entire process. I think oftentimes it can be a struggle early on with TA negotiations and the proposal process, in terms of getting the right level of engagement. And that can kind of foreshadow what execution might look like. So we want to have that strong partnership up front so that we can continue that through execution. The one final point I'll note, I have some colleagues at the my right, your left. Brian Balcom is our DISA account lead, so he manages our account portfolio, and Jeff Pravat right behind him. He leads our mobility capabilities and CSFC capabilities. If you have specific needs, please reach out to them. They are the ones right now figuring out what our needs are. I see some other colleagues in the audience. I'm not going to name everyone. But if you have specific needs, please reach out to them, because they're going to be able to determine where we can potentially match you against some of those requirements. We mentioned model earlier. Brian's leading that capture. We do have a number of other bids that Jeff is focused on. So please engage. We're looking forward to having some open communication.
Okay. Thank you guys for volunteering to sit on our panel. I appreciate the information. I hope the audience got some ways forward or for more information. Is it okay if I give your emails out? So if you didn't write down their emails, because I think I only heard Paul's, you can email DISA smallbusiness@mail.mil and ask for their emails. We'll send them to you, or I encourage you to go to their booth spaces. I don't know if you're going to stand here for a few minutes or find other people. If there's anything that our office, DISA's Office of Small Business Programs, can help you with, please reach out to us as well. I will be at the DISA Pavilion the rest of the thing, except for something I have to do right now is meet the seniors, but otherwise I'll be at the table, or DISA, smallbusiness@mail.mil. However we can help you, we would love to assist. Thanks, everybody.